Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another Level Up Talk with Wilson. Hey, hope you are having an awesome day. Thank you, Solomon, for popping in, getting excited, jumping in on the good times. Again, I am your host, Mike Wilson. I just wanted to throw down with you our wonderful talk, but that's going to be happening in a minute. If you guys didn't get a chance to, last night we had the awesome, I repeat, the awesome privilege. I gotta show you this artwork for our dudes, for our guys, because if we didn't show this, I would have failed pretty hard. Actually, it's not even on this one. Sorry, I am so distracted partially, but I want to show you guys this awesome crew that we got going on our Thursday night streams now. It's pretty awesome. And here we go. Yeah, that's right. This is the Jedi and Ninja dojo segment that we have on Thursday nights. That's happening at 7 p.m. each Thursday. That's going to be alongside the stuff that we're already doing on Thursday. So it's a pretty jam-packed night. I'm not going to lie. We got lots of opportunity, lots of things. So what I like about it is that it means if you're into different things, you can hop on at different times and still be connected to an awesome community that's here for you. These guys really had a good time. They were playing League of Legends, so going back to some of our roots on what we were starting with our crew back even last year. Yeah, jeepers. We started playing League over a year ago and really kind of diving into it. But it's been really cool. We got to have Ninja featured as their gamer. You could hear Jedi in the background and even talk through what the heck is League. How do you play League? What are the terms that you should be knowing about? So it's an education in the dojo. But it is a good time. And I'm sure these guys are going to be throwing down some more good stuff. They also had a good time for prayer, just praying for the night. And so throw some stuff at them in the chat next time you see them. Yeah, very hype stream. Yes, very hype. Lots of encouragement there, Solomon, because these guys are really cool. They're awesome gents. They're good gamers. They're thorough in how they play. They think and process. So guys, hit them up. Hit them up. Anywho, hey, you're not allowed to look at that yet. You're not allowed to look at that yet. Sneaky. Yeah. No, we got a pretty awesome crew going on any night that you hop on, because legitimately our ministry is mainly focused on, and sorry, I'm totally looking off to the side, not trying to sidetrack you, I promise. But we have a pretty awesome crew. Even last night, when we had the nerdy Bible study going on, we've been doing Bible study a little differently because we've been used to staying in one book for a while, and then we shifted gears because some peeps weren't able to make it. And even last night we got to have some further good chats. If you're ever interested, and you want to find out what the heck kind of Bible study would you be getting involved in, let me tell you. The crew that we've got last night, we were talking about Revelation, and we weren't doing the deep mystic reading, trying to figure out all these images and what the heck do they mean. And that's primarily because, for me, when you are studying Revelations, you need to remember it's about the church and the progress of the church throughout that. It's a letter of encouragement. It is telling some things that are happening, but you're getting more of a spiritual perspective out of it. You're kind of looking behind the curtains of what's all the things that are going on within the world and stuff like that. But it's an encouragement for the church, a reminder of, God's in control. God's the one who is overseeing it. God has a plan. He has an end game, and he will get to it and do it. Hello, Ukulele for Worship. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could join in with us and have a good time with us, hopefully. So that's the kind of stuff that we've been throwing out there and what we're getting involved in. It's kind of cool to be able to see that and be amped for opportunity on how we grow in development here. So, today's talk, though, however, is going to be a fun one, and this is another Jedi original. So you gotta send some love to that dude Jedi. He is a guy who just has a fount of knowledge on Star Wars. And last week, if you missed out on it, you got to get in on it. It's a good time. You should check it out on our Twitch channel, which you can totally. Actually, I'll let you guys even see that because. You guys even see that. Ooh. Because. You guys even see that. Ooh. Because. Ooh. Oh no. I just want to see the channel. Oh no. I just want to see the. Okay. Did I do a goof? Back to Twitch? I don't think I'll be able to do it. Hold on a second. I guess I can't show you to you in basic context. I guess I'll do it next time as a picture. Yes, thank you very much for that. It is definitely Echo Zone. I wasn't thinking on that. But thank you for joining in. There's lots of content there, and we tried to be semi-organized on it too. But yeah, we got lots of different segments. Check it out. But the last one was really good. It was fantastic, talking about the connections between Anakin and Samson. And I was kind of flabbergasted at the amount of connections that were really right there. It was just kind of absolutely nuts how this was approached, like how this went about, to the point where I almost thought, like, George Lucas, did you copy and paste Samson and just made a longer abridged story and with a different focus? Then, like, what's going on here? But it was just really kind of cool seeing how that happened and all the progression off of that as well. So we're moving past that. Today's talk brought to you by Jedi, is something that I think is very on the nose, but very, very on point, that we need to sometimes remind ourselves here, okay? Because it's important to have some points of reflection, right? When we're talking about our faith, when we're talking about developing our connection with God, and facing certain things. I will admit, this is something that I need to come back and sit on a lot more. And it's the idea of the Death Star, right? So I hope you guys know what the Death Star is. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty intense. I'm going to get some image up here, because if you're not a nerd, the Death Star image. Yeah, look at how huge this is, right? Look at this thing, right? It's big. It's no moon. It's a space station. No, but like, it's this giant space thing that's right there, that's causing problems. It's being ridiculous, and gonna blow stuff up, right? And it's an issue because, blowing up planets just because you don't like them, not really the best way to operate, if you know what I'm saying. But there's this danger, there's this huge danger that's literally out there in space. It's facing a problem. This is with the Republic, right? So, like, if you know anything about Star Wars, you're following along. But if you don't, essentially, there's this galaxy far, far away. It's taken over by a horrible emperor who is gonna make you submit to his rule. And this is a big way to make you submit, because if if you want to live, you're gonna do what I tell you to do, essentially, is what that dude's throwing down with a giant delete button hanging over your head or over your planet. And so Solomon throwing the Palpatine #1. We appreciate you. That's all. I'm not a fan of Palpatine. I get where he went, but man, I can't handle. So, like, giant delete button floating in the air. So, of course, if you are a bunch of rebels who want to, like, take out and make a big difference in the fight, you're gonna want to figure out how to do this, because guess what? One planet already got destroyed. Poor Alderaan. Everyone, just sad, awkward moment for Alderaan. Yep, no, okay, that was awkward. So, yeah, like, blew up, gone. Adios, muchachos. Really sucked. And so then you have the wonderful Rebel Alliance that's going on with Luke Skywalker. Yeah, this guy. Well, he's not a Poindexter in that one. There, better Poindexter. This kid from, like, out in the boonies. Man, Solomon is just going to throw the love, so to speak, for our man Luke here. Like, my goodness. Yeah, this kid out in the boonies of the universe. And, you know, they're going to send a squadron to find a way to destroy this. Oh, and they find a plan to destroy the Death Star. But, of course, it's like a near impossible... Well, basically is an impossible feat. You go down this alleyway, which, FYI, has tons of guns going on. Oh, and there's probably going to be fighters that are going to be also... Horrible Star Wars sound effects. Please comment below what kind of effects you want me to be making next time. But, like, legitimately, farm kid who's just trying to make a difference. He feels like he needs to be in a fight. He's getting trained by this old dude in the ways of the Force, which he's like, what? That sounds weird. That sounds like weird, as Han Solo would put it, hokey religion, right? It's just like, okay, dude, did you forget to take a pill or something? Like, that's really cool. You have a laser sword. I have no idea what that does. And so, yep, sure enough, he goes in on what's basically a suicide run on the Death Star, because if he doesn't, the rebel base that is known of is going to be wiped out, destroyed, and it's going to be awkward, right? Because then no more rebels. Oh, I guess no more Rebel Alliance. No more pushing against the Emperor. This is awkward. FYI, if you haven't seen Star Wars, like, for New Hope, I am so sorry that I'm spoiling this, but trust me, my description is nowhere as good as actually watching it. Even with it being, like, the 70s style film. Oh, dude. Nerds be loving. Just nerds be loving. No. So, diving in. Oh no, no rebels. What a shit. Wow. Everyone send Solomon some love here, okay? Like, the dude needs some love from the rebels. Throw down a thumbs up to Solomon. Just saying. Gotta rep my boy. But this is where we are at the point where he's got to do something. So he, of course, goes in. He almost gets taken out. R2 gets taken out, which is really sad. And he's feeling the Force. He shoots his proton torpedoes. They manage to go in when everyone else was, like, peckering off the surface. And then we have the cool Death Star blow up. Like that, like a giant fart in space. No, I'm kidding. It's not a giant fart. But it definitely blows up. Happiness ensues. Haha, this is great. This is awesome. Yeah, but then there's another problem. There's Death Star 2. But that's another problem for another situation. We already talked about how Darth Vader dealt with that problem. And, well, the Rebel Alliance also dealt with that. So, good guys win. Palpatine dies pretty brutally. That's the way it is. So, big spoiler alert for those movies. Sorry I ruined it for you. But that's how it happens. So, you're wondering, Mike, what's going on here? What's the teachable moment, right? We just talked about Death Star blowing up. We just talked about all of what happened there. Well, there's a few connections to the Death Star blowing up. Big moments, right? I've been loving how worship music has been coming on out. There's one song that's, like, talking about nothing is better than you, God, and it's talking about, like, facing your giants. Like, God is the God who takes down giants. He's the one who gives you the strength to face your giants, even. And and the security in that. And so we're going to look at some of these connections, but we're not going to look right off the bat with the giant story, which I hope you know. And if you don't, that's totally cool. That's what we're here for. We're here to nerducate in biblical literature. Yeah, that sounds like an odd thing, but that's what we do on Fridays. So the first one I want to talk about is Joshua. So Joshua 6 is where we're going to be at for those of you who like reading your own Bibles, all that goodness, right? If you are more of a visual person and you want to jump along and be like, who is this Joshua? Oh, wow. I would love to be able to type properly. Joshua in the Battle of Jericho. Okay, that was really cheesy, but it is a good song. So Joshua in the Battle of Jericho, right? So like he's a leader of Israel. If you want to follow it chronologically, he is a leader after Moses. So Moses wasn't able to enter into the promised land because he done broke a rock instead of just only talking to the rock to make it, gush out water. And God was like, not cool, Moses. But Joshua was appointed to be the new leader once Moses had died, and they've, at this point, in Joshua 6, they've already started entering into the new territory, which is in the area of Canaan, and they are going to be essentially claiming new territory. They're going to be taking over areas. Some they just eradicate. Some they're like, yo, no, you guys, this is our place now. So, but that's another topic for another time. But they have to purify themselves, which is kind of intense, right? Like they make themselves right before God and make sure that they're going to listen and follow God's instruction. And then the big thing that they go to is Jericho. And the big thing about Jericho was its giant walls. And you have to remember, culturally, giant walls mean extra safety, right? Like, they didn't have amazing technology back then. And whatever kind of technology they would have done, it's a lot of development, right? Stuff like that. But these walls were huge. Like, Jericho was known for giant, thick walls. Like, it was a fortress. If you remember Lord of the Rings, it would be like Helm's Deep. It's like the, haha, sucker, what do you got? What do you got? Because you guys can't bust through walls. I'll just keep taking you out, and then we're laughing at you. And that's the kind of threat that Joshua has going on here. But the thing about Joshua is that he's given a call out by God, right? And this is what I love, right? So this is in chapter 6. I'm double checking to make sure there wasn't okay, yeah, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna start off in chapter 5. So I lied. Sorry. Chapter 5, verses 13 to 15 here. And this is before they go to check out Jericho, right? So the Lord's commander confronts Joshua. Some people think this might have been actually like a Jesus moment or a theophany where he shows up and does something. Okay, when Joshua was near the town of Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a sword in hand. Yo, kind of boss mode. Joshua went up to him and demanded, "Are you friend or foe?" "Neither one," he replied. "I am the commander of the Lord's army." So this could be Jesus. This could be potentially, this could be like another angel, a divine being that's connected with God, that's in charge of God's army, which is kind of boss. At this, Joshua fell to his face to the ground in reverence. "I am at your command," Joshua said. "What do you want your servant to do?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for this place you're standing is holy ground." This is why I think it's closer to being like Jesus, right? Because throughout the scripture, there's a spiritual being that's connected to the presence of God, and so that's the identifier of oh snap, he knows Jesus. He knows God. This is pretty intense. Yeah, so that's kind of the throwdown that's here. Chapter 6. Now, the gates of Jericho were tightly shut because people were afraid of the Israelites. Because, like, there's over 1 million Israelites at this point. So it's huge. It's the amount of people is just nuts. No one was allowed to go in or out, but the Lord said to Joshua, I have given you Jericho, its king, and all its strong warriors. You and your fighting men should march around the town once a day for 6 days. 7 priests will walk ahead of the ark, each carrying a ram's horn. On the 7th day, you are to march around the town 7 times. So 6 plus 7, 13 times. Kind of nuts. On the 7th day, 7 times with the priest blowing. When you hear the priest give one long blast of the ram's horn, have all your people shout as loud as they can. Then the walls of the town will collapse and the people can charge straight into the town. I'm not going to lie. If I was Joshua at this point, I'd be like, hold on a second. So doubling back, we were walking around 6 times. Then on the 7th day, we walked 7 times. And then some priests are going to blow some horns. We're going to scream like we're at a huge concert or something. Rocking our heads out like crazy. And somehow, those walls are just going to fall down. Like, it's going to be like, no problem. Not an issue. I'd be like, what? What is going on here? Like, physics? What? But this is the thing, right? They're supposed to do this. And especially the Ark of the Lord, or the Ark of the Covenant. So, like, this big golden box that has angels on it that no one else but, like, priests are supposed to be near or touching or stuff like that, is going ahead of them. Which, FYI, is laid in gold. So, like, value up. You're flaunting this around, and you're doing this once a day, and then 7 times on the last day. Like, you guaranteed the people like in the town were thinking, like, dude, these guys are nuts. Like, what's going on? Huh? And they are not to say anything until the ram's horn goes off, and then they can, like, go absolutely nuts, like, stuff like that. Sorry, I was very loud, but that's kind of like the mindset. Like, you're just really loud, and they go nuts, and then the wall falls down. And the thing is, Joshua doesn't question it. He doesn't. Like, he just tells them to do it, and so they do it, and it's just like, okay, we saw some weird stuff in the desert, but this is a little different here. Huh? And so they do it faithfully. They do it, and then as the story goes within Scripture, that they take out all of Jericho. They plunder it. It people are wrecked, destroyed, plundered, and it is nuts, right? Completely destroyed. Giant city, what the heck? Like, it's kind of intense. And so it's really cool, though, because, like, there's this... God used that opportunity, used an insurmountable situation, and turned it on and said, no, these are my peeps. All right. You ready for example number 2? Come on. Throw some love in the chat. You ready for example number 2? I'm way too hyped up. I've had coffee. That's the problem. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So the next one is Gideon. If you don't know anything about Gideon, Gideon is this dude who is hanging out. This is after, like, in the book of Joshua, where they've conquered the land. Israel is its own, nation, its own country. But now there's the cycle of Judges. And we talked about the cycle of Judges. Once again, it's all about sin. So people screw up. They choose not to listen to God or follow God. So then they become enslaved or subjugated by another country or outside factors, other groups of people. So then they become slaves, or they are ruled over and they're not nice. So then supplication, God, what the heck? We need help. Save us. Send somebody to help us. And then salvation. God sends somebody. They kick faces in, and then it goes again. Knock, knock. Silliness. So Gideon's one of these guys. That God brings in. And Gideon has nothing amazing about him. In fact, he's probably, he's from one of the weakest clans it talks about in the earlier chapter. How he's hiding out. He's afraid of these Midianites who were cruel to the Israelites. And so the Israelites start hiding in mountains and caves and other areas. And so, they had to be careful, because otherwise stuff was going to go missing and is going to suck. Right? And again, people cried out. So then God sends, or the angel of the Lord, again, it's this spiritual being that shows up, that's repping God. And I love this. Lord came and sat beneath the great tree of Oprah, or Ophrah. I don't know if it's Oprah or Ophrah, but I think it's Ophrah, the way it's spelled, which belonged to Joash of the clan of Abiezer. You're like, okay, huh? Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress to hide grain from the Midianites. So he's already freaking out. He's like, okay, now don't hit it too hard. Shoot, that chaff is going everywhere. He's trying to keep low. And then the angel of the Lord appears. Mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Again, track record with any spiritual being showing up, people freak out. It's like, what the flip? What's going on? And so his response, sir, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told about? Oh, again, so that's like Joshua, that's like Moses, and all that stuff. Didn't they say the Lord brought us out of Egypt, but now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us to the Midianites? Oh. So not only is he freaked out, he's also sassy. You're going to find out. Gideon's very much like that vibe. He's a dude that's got a lot of questions, a lot of pushback. Kind of like Moses in that way too, right? Because God says to Moses, yo, I'm going to send you this way. And Moses is like, I'm not good with the spetch thing. And God's like, nah, we're gonna resolve that. That's not an issue. You're just gonna do it. So this is kind of the same thing with Gideon. And even Gideon's like, I don't know if you're really here. I got an idea. There's this cool fleece blanket that I got. Ooh, it's very nice. I want it when I put this fleece out in the ground. It's wet. The ground is dry. That's gonna tell me that I'm gonna lead an army. So then he does this. Next day, oh, guess what? The fleece is wet and the ground is dry. He's like, oh. Well, I'm not too sure yet. So, tell you what, we're going to do the reverse of that. We're going to have it where now the fleece is dry and the ground is wet. Then 100%. Got your back. I will go where you tell me. God does it. And he goes, oh. I'm sure in his head, he's like, dude, couldn't you just screw up once just so that I could just go, oh, sorry, didn't work. Yeah, that Gideon, he's a coward. He's scared. He's a scaredy pants, which is understandable. These are Midianites. They're all over. They're going to be taken down. So finally he gets called. And now he's, and he even gets bold enough to tear down an altar, which then calls him Jerubbaal. That's his nickname. Essentially, the bane of Baal, or the bane of the Asherah poles. He's the crap disturber, so to speak. Just throwing it out there. He's starting it. But now he's got to gather an army, and they're going to do an invasion of the Midianite camp. And you're like, oh, dude. So, you're going to need big numbers, right? So this is how we're going to go about it. You ready? We're going to read this together, and we're going to laugh and cry at this together as well. Just throwing it out. So Jerubbaal, this is, again, Judges chapter 7. So Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and his army got up early and went as far as the spring of Hord. The armies of Midian were camped north of them in the valley of Hill of Moreh. God said to Gideon, "You have too many warriors with you. If I let all of you fight the Midianites, the Israelites will boast to me that they saved themselves by their own strength. Therefore, tell the people, whoever is timid or afraid may leave this mountain and go home." So essentially, God's going, "Yo, you chicken? Yeah, you can go. I don't want chickens." It's like, okay, big call out. And there's 22,000 of them. 22,000 of them that went home, leaving only 10,000. Okay, let's do quick math. That's 32,000 people total. And we go from 32,000 to 10,000. Yo, that math not happy. That's what I'd say. That's not good. But the Lord told Gideon, because this isn't enough. There's still too many. Bring them down to the spring, and I will test them to determine who will go with you and who will not. When Gideon took his warriors down to the water, the Lord told him, "Divide the men into 2 groups. In one group, put all those who cup the water in their hands, and the ones and lap it with their tongues like dogs. In the other group, put all those who kneel down and drink with their mouths in the stream." Okay, so kind of weird. We're judging people on how they drink water now. Only 300 of the men drank from their hands. All others got down on their knees and drank with their mouths in the stream. The Lord told Gideon, "With these 300 men, I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home." So Gideon collected the provisions and ram's horns of the other warriors and sent them home. But he kept 300 men with him. Okay, so again, we went from 32,000 to 10,000 to 300. Yo, where's Leonidas at? That's all I'm going to say. Like, this is a moment where you go, okay, like, are we going to Sparta? Is this a thing? Yeah, I'm not too sure. Hold on a second, crew. I just got to check this out for a moment. But I'll be right back. We still in suspense mode? I gotta keep you, yeah, I keep you holding, right? Though, really, you could have been reading this whole time and you go, "Oh, well, I know what's going on." Or you got the Cole's notes. Or maybe some of you just really like VeggieTales and you know what happened. You know, Larry the Cucumber shows up. Welcome back, Canadian Zordon. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. Anywho, so again, like 300 compared to 32,000. Huge drop. But the cool thing is, when Gideon shows up, right, he brings his crew, and they're told to, like, wait out on the edge of the camp and to surround this camp of the Midianites. And you're like, okay, 300. I don't not like VeggieTales. You don't not like, or you do not like VeggieTales ukulele for worship. Like, because, like, oh man, VeggieTales are my jam. That was my childhood. I would, like, go hardcore at the church library in the stock of those. Anywho, we can talk more. But, again, like, this crew. Okay, I love VeggieTales. Yeah, I thought so. It's beautiful. I'm just saying, it's a lot of fun. But here's the thing, right? They're told to, like, go down around and go into these 3 groups. Then there's this thing, right? Like, God tells Gideon to go down into the camp. Okay? And you're just like, okay. That's weird, right? So Gideon took Purah, his, like, probably his lieutenant, his crew, his stuff like that. Thank you, Solomon. VeggieTales are amazing. To the edge of the enemy camp, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts. So huge! Their camels were like grains of sand. Holy snap. Too many to count. Gideon crept up just as a man was telling his companion about a dream. The man said, I had this dream, and in my dream, a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down the Midianite camp. It hit a tent, turned it over, and knocked it flat. I don't know about you. I don't often dream about baked goods rolling into buildings or things and destroying them. I don't know. It's kind of weird, kind of different. Usually don't. But here's what the follow-up is on this, right? Because like God sends him down to like, yo, you're gonna want to check this out, okay? This is gonna be intense. So his companion answered, your dream can mean only one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite, victory over Midian and all its allies. I don't know if there's like an interpretation school that I missed or something like that, but I did not get that message other than there's a loaf of bread that's dangerous. Like, watch out for the loaf of breads. But like, it's kind of appropriate because he is threshing wheat. Okay, so that's where you get the bread. So then that tumbling tents. Okay, so like, you know, it kind of works out a bit, sort of, kind of, maybe a bit. But it did, because then they get up, they take these torches and pots, they bust open their pots that have these torches, and they all yell for the Lord, the sword for the Lord and for Gideon, and like freak out these people. Like, tons of guys in this valley, and they don't have to raise a finger other than to yell. They end up, like, going mad and start killing each other. Like, it's... And so then, like, so all the men of Ephraim did as they were told. They captured Oreb and Zeb, and the two Midianite commanders, killing Oreb at the rock of Oreb and the Zeb. Like, they took down the commanders. But all this, like, people were freaking out and killing each other. It was nuts. The Midianites rushed around in a panic, shouting and ran and escaped. Like, what? Panic mode is a thing. Watch out for it. But this is, again, like, a whole group of not just one army, but, like, several armies. And what do? They clean house by going, yo, who's the commander around here? Right, you. We're going to have a talk here. You're going to meet this called Stabby Stabby. Like, it's just a takedown. It's just nuts. And God did that with 300 guys. So, like, insurmountable odds, awesome God. So, insurmountable odds is always down here. God just, like, shows up. The last one is the one that really generated was the original talk that threw down from the Jedi himself. And it's David and Goliath, okay? David and Goliath, this is intense, this is good stuff. So, y'all know about David, right? Teenage kid, likes hanging out with sheep, actually gets paid to hang out with sheep, does this awesome stuff with his dad. He totally takes down bears and lions because they're, like, hungry for sheep because, you know, they're out in the middle of nowhere. Why wouldn't you? But, you know, this teenage kid apparently has some mad skills with a slingshot and tells Big Beast, heck no, these are my sheep. It's kind of cool. This is the MWV version, FYI. Just get ready for it. So, anywho, we have another problem. Israel is under control, well, actually, still under control of its own rights, but, like, the Philistines are causing problems. They're causing wars and stuff like that, right? So the Philistines are like, yo, like, cut the big wars, all right? Like, let's stop having stupid killing each other stuff. We're gonna sell this like old school. You get your best dude, we get our best dude. They fight. Whoever wins, we just own a territory. We cool with that? And so the Israelites must have been like, sure, yeah. How big is their dude? Like, remember, King Saul was, like, huge. He was, like, a head above everyone else, literally in Scripture. It's weird. It's, like, head taller. And he's handsome. He's like, yo, sup? Yeah, that was a problem when they met Goliath, who was, 9 feet tall. He's huge. Like his shield was wicked heavy. His sword alone was like, his spear was like the size of like a staff from a loom, which if you've ever checked out a loom, they're pretty big. They're not dainty small things. They're pretty huge. Yeah, so that was a thing. And so he's like, "Yo, let's fight." For 40 days he does this. He fights. He's like, "Yo, where's my contestant?" and stuff like that. And everyone's too chicken. Huh. Sounds interesting, right? Bunch of chickens. So they're all in hiding. Jesse is freaking out because he hasn't heard from his sons in a while. So he sends his youngest son, David's like, "Yo, here's some bread and cheese." Essentially, he sent pizza to his fam jam. And that's actually what VeggieTales throws down. It's beautiful. I really am holding on to that they had pizza. Cheese pizza. And so David goes down, and he's like, "Yo, like, what's the deal with all you hiding?" He's like, his brothers are like, "Dude, you don't know what war is like, man. Like, it's nuts out here. Like, you gonna fight this dude?" And, like, he hears Goliath, like, diss Israel. And the bigger diss wasn't Israel. The biggest diss was against God. He's like, "You're letting this guy, who doesn't even know the right God, boss you around. Like, don't you know diddly?" Again, he's a teenager, so he's allowed to be sissy and a little bit, or not sissy, sassy. Correction, sassy and a little bit angsty. So they're like, "Well, you can't do anything. You're just a scraggly kid." He goes, "Oh, you wait and see. You wait and see." So then he goes up and talks to King Saul, because apparently that's just something that's casual. It's like, "Yo, I'm ready to take on this big galoot." And so King Saul's kind of amused, like, all right, let's put some armor on you. Let's do the prep step first. See if this works. Puts on the armor. It's like, of course, the best kind of armor, but it's huge. And David's like, "Yo, this is uncomfortable, man. Like, I'm not vibing on this. Nuh-uh. No way. This is stupid." So, like, I'm essentially not even reading this right now. That's the whole story. I'm giving you the MWV version. You're welcome. And he's just like, "What the hell? Dude, you need something." He goes, "Yo, I've fought bears and lions. I'm pretty sure I can fight this dude. Like, let's go. He's just a big guy with armor. Who gives a rip?" And he walks out. Like, no armor, no sword, no nada. Just, he goes and he gathers some stones from a brook. And he has his staff. And he's just like, "Yo, let's go. Let's do it." Yeah. David put it on, strapped over, didn't like the outfit. And so he's just all chill, right? He just comes in and stuff like that. Totally takes it. And this is what I love is Goliath's response, right? Because, like, Goliath, he's a hardened dude. He's, like, probably killed hundreds of dudes. He's huge. He's mammoth. And so Goliath walked out toward David with his shield bearer ahead of him, right? Because his shield is wicked heavy that even one dude carrying is like, "Yo, dude, can we lighten this?" "Okay, we can't." "All right, cool." Sneering in contempt at this ruddy-faced boy. Ooh, sass level. "Am I a dog," he roared at David, "that you come at me with a stick?" Of course, that's going to look like a stick. It's probably a staff to David, like regular height. Goliath height. There's a difference in measurement of what's a stick quantifiably in ratio. Throwing it out there. And he cursed David by the names of his gods. Ooh. So essentially, like, "Yo, dude, my gods, they're going to beat you so senselessly. Come over here and I'll give you flesh, give your flesh to the birds and wild animals." Yo, he's not even going to give him proper burial. But this is what David comes back. David's comeback is awesome. Like, you should be able to step up to, like, these kind of things. So there's going to be follow-up. This is, if you're following along, 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45. David replied to the Philistine, You come at me with a sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give it to us. Yo, if there was a trash talk battle in the midst of battles, David wins, like, flat out. I'm just saying this. Like, the hype behind this guy, the trash talk that just happened, right? Like, he's just like, yo, you're coming at me with, like, legitimate weapons? I come at you with God. Like, and his crew. Like, you don't see the things going on here. And this isn't even when, like, Elijah or Elisha have showed up on the scene, which we know that fun story. But, like, he's just like, you don't know God, whom you badmouthed, FYI. And today, he's gonna deal with it. Oh, and I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna cut off your head. Like, calls out what he's gonna do. This is, like, so John Wick style. Like, just, done, son. This is how it is. This is like Sherlock Holmes, and just be like, I'm going to do this to you. And you're like, no, and then it happens. It's like, oh, awkward. Except he dies, so it's very awkward. Like, the confidence level in David is not even in himself. It's all in God. The amount of times he's referring to God throughout this is nuts, because it's God's battle to him. So then what happens? As Goliath moves closer to attack, because he was probably absolutely ticked that a snot-nosed teenager decides to call him out and think he's going to beat him. But David quickly ran out to meet him. So David's like, yo, man, I'm, like, ready. Let's go. Reaching into his shepherd's bag, grabbing out a stone, he hurls it, which FYI is nuts. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in. So it's like, vrink. Where's the stone? Oh, right. It's in the gray matter area. This is awkward. He hurled it with his sling, and it hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistines with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. Oh, and here's the little cherry on top. Then David ran over and pulled Goliath's sword from his sheath and used it to kill him and cut off his head. Like, insult to injury, man. Like, you already killed the dude, and then you're like, oh, where's his sword? His thing that he thought he was gonna, we're gonna do this. Yoink. Like, Cloud, original Cloud version was David. So, like, Cloud is mimicking David. I'm just saying. Happened. Lobs off, done. Oh, we can go home now after 40 days of sitting around like wusses. And that's, Israel army are just like amped. They're like, yo, yeah, no, that one defeat's not enough. And so they come in and they like dispatch the enemies away. It's nuts. Guys, this is the thing I want you to know on this. And this may seem ridiculously on nose, on point, but sometimes we overcomplicate things. I'm just going to say it right now. We need to realize what kind of God we are connected with. And if you don't know God, yo, there's these things called Bibles. They're even free to download, man. Like, take your time. Sit with it. Take a moment and just even, like, digest. What is even going on? Because we just broke down 3 stories, and I realized I did them in Mike Wilson version, so, like, there's no, like, yo, or, like, oh, snap, or, like, trash talking, huge, kind of stuff like that. Maybe we'll get, like, a graphic word noted Bible, so that, like, all these sub notes that I throw in for interesting context. I don't know. that might be a big game plan down the line. But the thing you need to look at is God is willing to show up if you trust him. Right? Like, we learned through Joshua that, like, he had a direct connection with God, right? Like, you see this host of angels army, and Hoki Dinah, you with me or against me? Well, neither. Depends on, are you going to listen to what I throw down? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to listen, because you're pretty intense, and you're connected to God, so yeah, I'm going to do that. And because of that, and trusting, even if the plan looks ridiculous, again, what was the whole point of the plan? Was the plan to be like, yo, you guys totally created a seismic energy thing that somehow brought down giant walls? No. The point was the practice of faith, that they were not going to get killed while they were walking around this fortress. Think about it. All they needed to do was have archers picking them off as they are going. Like, legitimately, this city allowed them to walk around their city 13 times. Because they're like, we got city walls. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And that was the problem, right? They trusted in God. They followed his guidance. They did what he told them to do. And what was insurmountable... Dude, look at Gideon. Gideon was a scaredy cat. The dude was freaking out. The only reason why he decides to trash down one of the altars is because, he has an immediate connection with God. Again, God calls him out. He does the fleece thing. Finds out, oh man, like, this fleecing thing, kind of a big deal, man. Like, throws down. God's actually gotten, now I went from 32,000 to 10,000 to 300. Oh, that's awkward. And yet they took out a whole camp without barely doing anything other than yell, lantern. Where's the commanders? Right, you're dead, and you're dead. Like, again, God showed up. God gave him confidence. God said, I'm here. Just, like, lean on it. Just do it. This is huge. I'm huger. David, cocky teenager, a teenager who hasn't seen any hardcore fights other than lions and bears, which, oh my. There wasn't even tigers thrown in there. So that's, man, if he had that, oh man, throwing down. But like, David showed up because his faith and reliance was on God. And you see that all throughout the Psalms, right? Even when he messes up in perspective, he's reminded God is a powerful warrior, a defender, a fighter. He will stand for you. When you call for his help, he will respond. When you got giants, when you got giant walls, okay, let's narrow it back to our analogy. When you got a Death Star, like, it just seems like there's no hope, right? You see that? Seems like no hope. What was the title of the first movie? A New Hope. The New Hope was Luke Skywalker, but the hope that was generated off of that was the destruction of the first Death Star. There's something that when you give God your big mountains and stuff like that, and I'm not saying this is like, you just gotta call on God on whatever problem is and he's automatically gonna fix it. I'm not saying that. By any means, do not, if you take that, already missed the point. The point is, how big is God to you? How big is God to you? Because if he's not bigger than a Death Star, you got a small God going on there. And I mean, like, God of Israel, God who's connected to Jesus, the very God Jesus person, Jesus Christ, God the Father, Holy Spirit, the Trinity in one. You have an amazing God that's willing to show up, and I really sometimes think, and I gotta say this to me too, we are so comfortable with small. Because we make mountains out of molehills. We really do. How big is your God? Is he bigger than what you're facing? Are you leaning on him like he's bigger than you're facing? Are you asking like you know he's going to help you figure this out? That you know he's there with you in that? Because that's what sure as heck David did here, right? He knew that he was doing this fight for God. Again, this is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us. Like, confidence, not in him, in God. He's willing to trash talk a freaking giant. How big is your God? Because when insurmountable odds come up, how are you looking at God in that point? Because it's so easy to lose hope. It is so easy to focus on how huge that is, right? The return of Death Star 2 alone would be like, yo, like for real? They are doing it again? Like, how are we gonna... I thought we took down that. Like, what... How are we even going to? It's not you. It's God. Give him that opportunity. Lean in on him. Trust, sit, do it, man. Same God who was there for David, who was there with Gideon, who was willing to work with Gideon, who had constant questions and constant worry, still showed up. Still worked with him. I gotta read what Solomon threw down because it looks like Solomon's throwing down wisdom stuff. This is a quote from Mark Batterson. You need to circle the goals God wants you to go after, the promises God wants you to claim, and the dreams God wants you to pursue. And once you spell Jericho, you need to circle it in prayer. Then you need to keep circling until the walls come tumbling down. Yo, that's actually a really good book by Mark Batterson. I will give credit to that. That's from The Circle Maker. And guys, it sounds weird. It sounds ridiculous. But that's like a legitimate thing. Because his whole thing was working through prayer circles. Like literally walking around areas that you were praying, right? So his thing was he was a pastor in an area. And he walked around the neighborhood that he was wanting to do ministry, where he felt God was telling him, we need to sit, we need to be praying and doing that. And he saw God's faithfulness in that. He stepped out in the faithfulness of that. And just, are you willing to walk? Are you willing to trust in some really different kind of things that God can throw at you? Are you willing to fleece it out? Is it important enough that you're willing to fleece it out with God and go, God, I want to know I'm clear. And I am freaking out. Help me. One passage that really hits me. And I've brought this up to my son. I've cried in front of it. And I'm almost going to cry in front of you guys. But there's a passage. There's a time when Jesus was needing to heal this boy who had a demon in him, and the dad's just broken because he brought the kid to the disciples, who are known to also be able to free people from demonic oppression because they're connected with Jesus, right? And they couldn't do it. And he brings his son, and he's like, I don't know what to do. God, like I like Jesus, I went to your disciples, they couldn't do anything about it. And Jesus asked simply, do you believe I can do this? And I love the honesty of this dad. He says, Jesus, I believe. Help me in my unbelief. Because he's probably fought about this. He's tried. He's done all that he can. And when seeing that the disciples who are under the authority of Jesus can't do it, man, you would start questioning, be like, is there anything that can happen that can help? And Jesus heals him. Jesus heals him. And we can be a lot like that dad. I believe, but help me in my unbelief. What are you afraid of? What is that thing that's so big that it's hindering your belief? That you need to give it to Jesus and just go, Jesus, I believe you can help me through this. I believe you have the strength to get me through this. And you're the one who has absolute control and power. Help me in my unbelief. Help me in my unbelief. And that's what he did with Gideon. To the point where Gideon got confirmation before he even charged in that God is with him through a vision. A really weird vision. I said that earlier. Really weird vision. But legitimately, he did that. So guys, the level up challenge for you is, what's your Death Star? What's the Death Star that's hitting you really hard, that's looming over you right now? Do you have a shred of hope? Do you feel like you're the rebels who are, they gotta do this. This is the last ditch effort. Because what I love is that Luke does it, not by his strength, but it's by the Force, right? It wasn't by any skill that he threw down. It was the Force that he had to lean in and trust and just do it. It's the same thing with Joshua. It's the same thing with Gideon. It's the same thing with David. Are you going to lean on the Force, on God, on Jesus, on the Holy Spirit? Call out for help, call out for guidance, so that you can shoot that photon torpedo with his help and guidance. And defeat what could be a giant Death Star. And maybe that's some difficulties you're facing in life. Maybe it's you don't know how to trust God. Maybe it is that thing that, like, why would God even care about you? You're insignificant compared to anything else. Tell you what, God sees it all. If he's willing to hang out with Gideon, who was a scaredy cat, and call him a great warrior, he saw the potential in Gideon. He was there with Joshua to face this giant task that they had. He was there with David, giving him confidence that he was there with him in the past and he would be there with him then. Take the opportunity. Call out his name, like we've said before. Give him your Death Star. Trust in him. So I'm gonna pray, and then we're gonna peace out from there. God, I thank you. Thank you for another awesome talk brought to us by Jedi, and just the thought. And God, I really pray for the Death Stars in our life. The things that are just so looming, so huge, so absolutely terrifying and scary. God, I pray that we would honestly give them to you. That we'd listen to you. Trust in your guidance and know that you actually take care of the problem. We just get to be there and show up alongside you. I thank you, God, that you even put us into impossible situations to need to trust you, just like you did with Gideon. You took his 32,000 and made it into 300. And you defeated a whole army and a bunch of armies. Because you are amazing. You are so much bigger than that. So help us to lean and trust in you, to be willing to call out for you, to call for your help. When we feel like when we even are facing insurmountable odds, facing giant Death Stars, even Death Star 2s that come back. Help us to stand in you and trust in you in that. And we ask this in your name. Amen. Guys, oh my goodness. Oh, snap. Solomon, you were ready for like some good stuff. Remember, people, God is infinite and his strength immense. And through both, he is always willing and able to let you lean on him. Just ask and he will answer. Let him be your shield and your guide. Trust him as he trusts you. Oh, man. Solomon. Solomon throws down all the good stuff, man. I think... Solomon, I think you just need to type up some talks, man. I think you need to be doing some of this. Just like... Whew. Man, throws down. But yeah, that concludes our stream. Well, that concludes our time and stuff like that. Just, again, a friendly reminder. We've got an awesome community, and you hear this out of me all the time. Our Discord community is so cool, and it's not about the big numbers. I could care less about the big numbers. The thing that I really love is that we actually have a community that's working on being more involved and connecting and sharing and interactive with one another. So if you feel like you're alone, if you feel like you're a nerd that doesn't have a clan to go with or stuff like that, a nerd herd, so to speak, join our crew. Here, let me throw it down into let me throw an invite. Come on. Just copy. No? Maybe? I don't know. Let's try this. If it doesn't work, let me know. Hey, it does. Go to the link down here. Join our Discord community. I cannot vouch it enough. We got an awesome crew. We got people that are interactive. What I love is that we have a prayer support crew, which is there legitimately putting up prayer encouragements, supports. If you need prayer, know that there are people reading it, and they're not judging. They are helping. We are processing. We are doing this together. Because that's what community is about. That's what we are here for. We're here to nerd out. We're here to grow in our connection with God and connect the awesomeness of nerdiness and faith and share that with other people. So if you know someone who could use this kind of info or could really find this stuff interesting, throw them a line out there. That's a horrible shameless plug. But this is what we're here for. And I want to throw that encouragement to you that if you feel like you need that kind of community, or you just even want to check it out, join it. There's a link. It's in the chat. It's in the chat. Actually, the chat's like that way. Yeah, that way. Chat's that way. Do that. Check it out. And with that, I'm going to say adios. It's always a good time. Solomon, it's always good to see your awesome animated emoji face. That's the way I can really put it, man. Like, when you're across the pond, it's nice seeing your digital face. Yeah, it's always good to hear your insight and your inputs. Man, you drop some knowledge bombs. Whew. It's good stuff. But, anywho, I'm going to let you guys go. You guys have an awesome weekend, a long weekend. Maybe for some of you, maybe it's not, but it's a long weekend for us. And we'll see you guys Tuesday night. Adios!